Hello, and welcome to the first installment of 5 on It News. This is going to be a daily video blog condensing the most riveting geopolitical stories into an easily understood format, hopefully keeping it to 5 or 10 minutes, hence the 5 on It. This is the first time that I'm doing this. I want to initially apologize for the audio and video quality that you're experiencing right now. This is just going on in my webcam on my laptop. So, if people like this, if it keeps on going, then I will definitely upgrade to something with higher fidelity and more editing capabilities. For right now, I'm going to have to do this all in one take. I want to start today by talking a little bit about, why I'm doing this. You got the what this is, but why am I doing this? So I am very passionate about news. I went to school for 3 years for international relations. I check the news every single day. I'm in the mainstream media, trying to filter through and find the good stuff, the stuff that's really impactful. It's very interesting to me. Also, I've noticed some news consumption trends of my peer group, the 25 to 35 kind of age range. I have a couple different groups that I've seen. One is the group that totally checks out the mainstream media. They're in there, they're trying to find the good stuff, they're sifting for gold. This is for them. This is just a quick way to maybe gain some entry and knowledge if they haven't checked out the news yet in that day, to a couple interesting stories, and also maybe some stories that have a geopolitical focus if they're just checking the more domestic news sources. Another group is people that are, interested in news consumption, but it's news of a different type. It's like progressive news. It's news about holistic stuff. It's technological developments, scientific advancements, success stories of agricultural development or ecological changes or permaculture, all that kind of stuff. Now, I think that those people, totally check out that stuff all the time, but then they feel like maybe it might be useful to have more of a debrief about what's going on in the mainstream media across the world. And then, the last group is people that are super, super busy. This is for those people that, never check out the news, but they're driving to work. Maybe they just want to know what's going on for the day. So I hope that this is a daily thing. I posted about this on Facebook yesterday, and a couple things came up that I want to mention. The first and the most interesting to me is that a lot of the problem with news consumption is that if you don't have a historical kind of knowledge of why this is happening, is it just becomes the what, and it becomes a little frame of, hey, this is happening. But without a real background knowledge of what's going on, it's hard to really find the import in this stuff and to kind of chart where it's going because you can't see where it came from. Now, this video series, unfortunately, isn't going to be that. This is meant to be short, quick. I hope. We're already at 3 minutes right now. This is the first one, so it'll probably be a little bit longer than the rest. But it's meant to be short and quick and just giving you the what's going on. And I might throw in a little bit of historical analysis here and there, or just let you know I think this story is important because of X, Y, and Z. But for the most part, it's not going to go into the roots of why this stuff is happening. Now, I'm thinking about maybe if this is going well to do a weekly or daily little historical background to some of the major stories that have gone on. Maybe bring in a couple other people that have a strong knowledge base and get us talking and give a fuller, richer historical perspective on these major stories that are happening. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to get right into it. Without further ado, first 5 on It news. Let's go. Okay, I'm going to be reading off my computer as well, so might not be able to look at the camera. First thing I want to talk about, President Obama has written a letter to U.S. policymakers indicating a request for war powers. It looks like this is a request to put boots on the ground in the Middle East against ISIS. This is the first authorization sought of its kind in 13 years. There's some interesting interplay with the prior authorizations and how they're getting handled. I'm not going to go into that. But I just think it's interesting, amid growing speculation that we might want to get more directly involved in this conflict, this is a clear indication that our commander-in-chief is very much thinking about doing that. Moving on from there, there's a couple tragedies that need to be noted. The first is that aid worker Kayla Mueller, who was captured by ISIS a couple months ago, has been confirmed to have been killed. As of yesterday, it was confirmed. Whether it's from ISIS or Jordanian airstrikes, as they were claiming, we don't really know, but the Pentagon and the family has come out and said that, in fact, she has passed away. In another tragedy today, 3 were killed in North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and the UNC area, University of North Carolina. These people were Muslim citizens that were murdered execution style, and it seems to be a hate crime, even though there is some speculation that there was a dispute over a parking space. But it does seem this is a hate crime, and I think that I just want to take a second to have a moment of silence for the fallen. When this stuff happens at home, for people that are from the United States, it's right in our face and it's really challenging to deal with. But I want to remind people that this conflict and this group ISIS has destroyed the lives of tens of thousands, killed thousands, raped and murdered, and pillaged a level of barbarism that is not been seen in a long time. It's rough stuff that's going on in the world today. And I think that we need to hold, a positive space for all the people that are suffering because of this. And unfortunately, this violence seems to be fractaling out. We see, attacks in Paris. We see problems in Australia and now in North Carolina. So it's rough stuff, and we're all dealing with it. So moving on, I want to talk about Yemen. Last week, there was a dissolution of parliament by an Iran-linked rebel force, al-Houthi. I'm not sure if I'm correctly pronouncing that. And the president or prime minister of Yemen, I'm not sure which it's what his title is, has been under house arrest since then. So Al Jazeera talked to a couple citizens in Yemen. It looks like the country is literally on the brink of civil war right now. We've got these armed rebels that have kind of dissolved parliament, and a citizenry that is very much having a lot of unrest, and things are really uncertain over there. Yemen's had a lot of problems over the past couple months, and this is stepping it up to a whole new level. In light of that, we decided to close our embassy and get our embassy people out. Now, we don't have a military evacuation of all U.S. personnel in Yemen yet, but we did close our embassy. And then another story that came in today is that as we were closing our embassy, I think it was yesterday, as we were flying off, those armed rebels, the al-Houthi rebels, claimed, or they seized 20 of our vehicles. They have access to a little bit of our infrastructure, but Yemen's really in the thick of it right now. This is going to be something to watch in the upcoming weeks, definitely. My heart goes out to them. I want to move now further north to the Ukraine. The Ukraine was all up in our faces for a while in the mainstream media, but then, of course, it became unpopular for some reason, and so it hasn't been around as much. But there's new fighting in eastern Ukraine in between, the Ukrainian military forces and these speculated to be Russian-backed rebels. 20 confirmed dead today, or maybe yesterday, in new fighting. And this comes right before today. There's going to be peace talks in Ukraine between France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russian leaders. Now, we want to send arms to the Ukraine forces. We want to send, military arms to the Ukraine forces. And there's a bit of a conflict. Merkel, the German PM, doesn't want to do this. Germany, just, for you to know, Germany relies on Russia for a large part, I believe, of their energy consumption. And so there's been a big split in, Germany and United States tactics in dealing with Russia. Merkel was actually in the U.S., I believe, yesterday talking to Obama. There's a big divide there, and, that's an interesting interplay. Also, we are sending a battalion of 600 American paratroopers. They'll be heading to Ukraine next month to train their National Guard there. And so this is ramping up in all kinds of ways. I want to remind everyone that this conflict isn't something small. This has claimed over 5,000 lives since last April. So this is very intense for the people there, and I wish them well. I want to now talk about Russia, and this is going to be one of the last stories that I really cover. Then we're going to move on to something called Quick Mention, which is going to be fun. But Russia is helping Egypt to build its first nuclear power plant. Why is this important? Well, I think that anytime that a superpower that isn't the U.S. starts building ties with our perceived allies, it's an important thing to look at. I'm going to go into the history a little bit here. 20 years ago, when the U.S. was really on its rise to hegemony, we were, building a lot of ties, investing in a lot of infrastructure around the world. Now, of course, with the wars, the campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan, Pakistan, we really, created some probably irrevocable damage to our clout in the international forum that we really haven't recovered from. Our power is waning over time. And so we're going to continue to see other superpowers build ties with, nations that are important nations. I mean, Egypt is, even though it's been under a lot of turmoil, is extraordinarily important to all the stuff going on in northern Africa and all the stuff going on in the Middle East. It's right there by Israel, even around the Mediterranean. It's a hotspot of activity. It has been for thousands of years, and definitely over the past couple hundred. So, this is very interesting. We see another superpower, going down and helping Egypt invest in its infrastructure. We see similar stuff with, China doing a lot of infrastructural building in Africa, sending a lot of migrant workers and some technological education and resources to Africa. We see, China also building ties with some Central South American countries. I believe Venezuela, China and Venezuela are talking right now about investing in Venezuelan infrastructure. So this is an interesting power play. We see the U.S. power kind of, dwindling to, an extent. We're still definitely the top superpower, but then we see these other superpowers are kind of major rivals in some ways, starting to invest in infrastructure around the world, starting to build these, strong ties. That's an interesting global interplay that everyone should keep their eye on. Okay, so those are the main stories I'm going to focus today. Like I said, this is a small focal point that I'm honing in on. Stuff that affects you and stuff that is pushing forward or showing development in the geopolitical spectrum of what's going on in the world. But before we finish the video, I want to do something called Quick Mention, where I just bang out, just a bunch of other stories that came up on the news that I saw that I liked that I didn't really want to go into, but that I want you to know about. So we're just going to get to it. This is going to be the end of every video. Quick mention. In Argentina, there is potentially a major reform of surveillance of citizens that's going to be passed. A sweeping reform that's going to dissolve the agency that surveils citizens, and there's been a lot of protests there about it, and that's going to set up something that is more amenable to the citizens. In the United States, there was a lawsuit or a court case with AT&T customers that accused the NSA of warrantless searches of their data. But the judge actually favored in ruling of the NSA, unfortunately. And as I say, unfortunately, that's my bias, and that's beautiful. Here I am. I'm a person, and I do have biases. So we've got a couple things that are working against radical Islam. We've got Belgium charged 12 men that were involved in recruiting people to go down and fight in Syria, and maybe we're planning some attacks in Europe themselves. Belgium charged 12 men. Australia charged 2 men that were doing something similar. We also have reports that an ISIS commander was reported killed in one of the drone strikes or military strikes led by the United States or Jordan. I'm not sure which. And then one more, my favorite kind of bash against ISIS is that hundreds of social media accounts linked to ISIS have been shut down by the hacker group Anonymous. If you don't know who they are, you should totally check them out. They're a funny group. So that's 800 Twitter accounts, 12 Facebook pages, and over 50 email addresses. And this is Anonymous's message to ISIS: you will be treated like a virus, and we are the cure. We own the internet. That's a strong statement from a shadowy, very interesting organization. Ohio oil workers are striking. This is the first strike of its kind since 1890. I hope that didn't say 1980 in the news article. 1890 seems like a long time ago, but this is the first strike of its kind in either 20 or 130 years. So it's very interesting. They want more benefits and stuff like that. If we move over we're looking at Myanmar now. Myanmar and China have some peace talks upcoming, but unfortunately there have been some pretty heavy conflicts in between Myanmar soldiers and China's kind of like border guard, I believe, which are causing some problems potentially for those talks. It's bad news. In other news, Apple is worth $700 billion, the largest U.S.-based business. It's in its own class because the next is like Shell or something, and they're only like half that. But whatever. Another news. The United States is pulling 700 aid workers from areas hit by Ebola, despite the growth of the disease in Western Africa. This was something that was really in our faces and that everyone was all jazzed up about, and really focusing on for a while. It's a shame it's not in the news anymore as much. This is still a really big problem, and we're pulling our aid workers for whatever reason. Maybe you have more insight. You can post about it in the comments. So to close off our quick mention, I want to mention that Brian Williams, a very famous newscaster, is on 6-month leave. He was lying about his war correspondence experience in Iraq. And Jon Stewart is leaving the air for Comedy Central on his wonderful show. And, I just want to mention, coincidence, potentially, but, this stuff happens over the past 24 hours. Brian Williams gone, Jon Stewart gone, just as I decide to make a news podcast. I'm looking at you, news agencies. I'm right here. Okay, well, that was the video for today. I'm going to be trying to do these every single day. I might have gotten some stuff wrong. I might have left some stuff out. Go into the comments, post cool stuff. If I said something wrong, tell me. I'm new at this. I'm going to try to get better on the camera. I'm going to try to get better quality. I'm going to try to find the stories that matter the most. And please like, favorite, subscribe on YouTube. That's a big one. And share. I'm going to make a Facebook page. It might be up by the time that this goes live. We'll see. And if you like this, let's get some news in our lives. Go ahead and share it. If you like it, share it. Let people know about it. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that this was helpful. And I hope that you have an amazing day. This has been the first installment of 5 on It News, running at almost 16 minutes, way longer than I normally want. We're going to try to keep it to 10 in other ones. But thank you very much. I hope you have a fantastic day. My name is Edwin Leskin from Asheville, North Carolina.